To continue our conversation, we bring in former NYPD detective Wally Zeins. Happy holidays, Wally. Thanks for being with us.
Much happy holidays to you and your listeners. But before I begin, I just want to extend my condolences to the Ramos family and the Luke family going through the most tragic part of their lives.
Absolutely, and that's something that a lot of folks will be thinking about today. And both Mayor Bill de Blasio and the Reverend Al Sharpton have made statements rejecting the violence in New York. But do you think that those messages are actually getting through to the people who might actually carry out something like this?
Absolutely not, especially when you hear the voice of Al Sharpton. That's like putting salt on the wound. Al Sharpton is probably the worst instigator in history of the NYPD that I have ever seen, such a hateful man towards the department. The biggest question I have is how was this rat Al Sharpton allowed to be at the White House 81 times this year? It just blows me away when I think about that.
Well, you know, you go back to something that he just said in that clip we played, trying to create a climate for their own political relevance. I mean, that's pretty much what Al Sharpton has been accused of doing. Those words to you, while he must seem a little hollow.
Oh, it's a terrible, terrible thing, because this man has his own agenda. He's only out for himself. He only survives on other people's sorrows and tragedies. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. And de Blasio, the mayor, brought him in as one of his top people to help him in advising in relationship to community affairs. It's outrageous. You know, I want to say one thing. The saddest part of all this, the fact that the likes of racial racketeering like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and Farrakhan have done decades and decades worth of damage to all the great work that Martin Luther King died for. It's just amazing.
Now, we also have been reporting about these 7 folks that have been arrested so far for making these types of threats, and we know this has to be something pretty significant. What do you think the mindset of the police force is right now compared to maybe, say, just the day before Christmas? Because it seems that nothing is getting any easier for these cops in the street. More people arrested, more threats.
No, nothing is. In fact, the union presidents came out with a letter, which I received. I just want to paraphrase some of the stuff they said. First of all, one of them was, wear your vest. I'm reading what the letter said to all of us. Wear your vest both on patrol and within the precinct. Carry your firearms at all times on duty and off duty. Carry additional magazines and a second weapon. Stay in pairs and be vigilant to people around you. The main concern is you want, at any cost whatsoever, your only assignment is to go home safe.
And Wally, you mentioned going home safe, and you also mentioned something in that letter, carry your weapon with you even when you're not on duty. But really, in many ways right now, for a lot of these New York City police officers, there is no off-duty.
There is absolutely right, and you can take that to the bank. There is no off-duty. And now cops are even more vigilant than ever. And also, keep in mind, this is if people don't realize this, terrorists are looking at this and saying, is there an easy way to go around so that we can make a terrorist attack? Remember, the terrorists call it the theater of terror. They need money, manpower, and media. Those are their 3 objectives. And with mass protests and with mass police officers outside their different precincts, it's a terrorist dream if they wanted to take some action towards us.
Well, Wally, we got about 45 seconds left to go. And before we part ways here, I wanted to ask you, because, of course, the New York City Police Department is going to be tested in a couple of days, like they are every single year on New Year's Eve. You mentioned the theater of terrorism. What do you think the likelihood is that something happens on New Year's Eve? We know the police department's doing everything they can to make sure the city is safe, but it does seem that things might be a little different this year.
It will be different, but you know what? There'll be other sources that the police department will take that I'm not going to talk about, but they will definitely have an extra amount of personnel there. They will do things like removing all the mailboxes, welding all the sewer covers.
Yeah, we know they're taking all those precautions, and as you mentioned, it's important that we don't mention everything that they're doing as well. Wally, we're going to have to leave it there for the time being, but we always appreciate your insight, your comments, and the mindset of somebody who's been there, a former NYPD police detective. Wally Zeins, thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
All right, much more to come here. We're going to be joined by former Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Pete Hoekstra, to talk about the Sony hack and the movie, The Interview, right after this.